2007. NVIDIA is gasping for air. Laptop chips are failing in the field. Recalls are everywhere. Lawsuits stack up like boxes in a warehouse. Warranty charges torch cash. Wall Street starts to whisper the word that kills companies: bankruptcy. From the outside, the story seems written. The market punishes the stock. Headlines darken. Competitors circle. Employees brace for bad news. Partners keep their distance. But inside the company, a different script is being rehearsed. One line is repeated in war rooms and late-night emails. If we go down swinging at the future. Less than 2 decades later, that same company would become the first to cross a $4 trillion market valuation. This film is about how a near-death moment turned into a flywheel of dominance and how a single idea, accelerated computing, pulled the future forward. Silicon Valley, 1993, beige towers, CRT monitors, floppy disks, the early hum of 3D graphics. 3 engineers, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem, make a contrarian bet. First, that real-time 3D graphics will break out of labs and land in living rooms, classrooms, and design studios. Second, that the parallel math behind graphics could someday accelerate everything: science, simulation, finance, and eventually intelligence. They name the company NVIDIA. Capital is scarce. Rivals are bigger. The PC market is brutal, but they move with unreasonable conviction. The question is not if 3D matters, it's when the world realizes it. Early momentum arrives with Riva 128. The breakthrough comes with GeForce 256, 1999, marketed as the world's first GPU. It isn't just a chip, it's a category. Once you name a category, you bend the map. Gamers flock, developers follow, OEMs sign up. NVIDIA is no longer just a component vendor, it is a destination. The early 2000s feel like a victory lap. Every GeForce generation raises the ceiling, frames climb, latency drops, studios ship on time because drivers and tools are reliable. The brand stands for speed, stability, and care for developers. Mini battle, the 3DFX showdown. 3DFX was the early legend. But integration, pace, and ecosystem win over nostalgia. NVIDIA acquires key assets. Lessons from that era hardwire a rule: ship relentlessly, support developers like customers, and never let the tool chain drift. Mini battle, the Xbox deal. Consoles are gateways to the mass market. Winning Microsoft's Xbox hardens NVIDIA for demanding partners. Requirements are strict, timelines are unforgiving. The win demonstrates a second rule: when platforms pick you, they don't just buy chips, they buy confidence. Yet Jensen Huang is restless. Gaming is powerful, but cyclical. If the company is only a graphics company, it will live and die by refresh cycles. A bigger idea is taking shape. Open the GPU for general computing. To do that, you need more than silicon. You need a movement. Enter CUDA, a new model that lets developers write programs for GPUs, not just for graphics pipelines. On launch, adoption is slow. Tooling is new. The mental model is unfamiliar. Data centers still worship the CPU, so NVIDIA seeds the world. Universities receive kits, professors are trained, research labs get hardware, docs, and real human help. Startups are given early access and attention. The goal isn't short-term revenue. The goal is a generation that thinks in parallel. This is not free. It is patient, expensive, and risky, but it plants an ecosystem. Once the ecosystem takes root, it compounds like interest. Every library, every tutorial, every class adds to the pile. Every graduate fluent in CUDA pulls their next team toward NVIDIA by default. And then, crisis. A manufacturing defect in certain laptop chips detonates into recalls and lawsuits. Cash bleeds, partners lose faith, message boards give the scandal a name. Internally, there's a fork in the road: cut R&D to survive or double down on the bet. The company chooses the second path. Culture is revealed under pressure. The choice will define the next decade. When a company confronts failure, it learns what not to be. Distractions are trimmed, priorities are clarified. NVIDIA focuses on three things. 1. A single architecture to serve many markets. 2. Software that compounds. 3. Developers as a first-class customer. Internally, teams move with wartime urgency. Externally, the market sees only pain. But survival years often build the muscles that winning years spend. The CUDA bet continues. Documentation improves, samples ship, libraries harden. The product stops being a component and starts becoming a platform. Wartime leaves a mark. It creates a reflex for detail, a bias for long-term bets, and a memory that success is rented, not owned. That memory will matter when AI arrives. – 2012 changes the center of gravity. Researchers training deep neural networks discover that GPUs swallow the new math far faster than CPUs. Training runs that took weeks drop to days or hours. Accuracy jumps. Whole fields unlock. Speech recognition, image classification, recommendation engines. CUDA, once a curiosity, becomes the on-ramp to modern AI. Years of seeding pay off overnight. Universities are already teaching it. Research codebases are already optimized for it. The gravitational pull increases with each paper, each benchmark, each shared repo. Paradigm shifts are messy, then obvious. By mid-decade, serious AI teams default to NVIDIA. The company's ambition expands from fast chips to fast time to insight. Chips alone won't win the future. Systems and software will. NVIDIA introduces the DGX line, AI supercomputers in a box. Teams no longer buy a component. They buy a solution that trains models on day one. The software stack deepens. CUDNN, Tensor RT, NCCL, profilers, debuggers, deployment runtimes. The pitch evolves. Stop wrestling infrastructure, start shipping intelligence. The product is performance, but the value is time. The A100 arrives with architecture designed for the era's bottlenecks. Multi-instance GPU slices a single accelerator for multiple jobs. Precision, flexibility, and memory innovations keep the system fed. Hyperscalers standardize. Enterprises follow. A new kind of data center takes shape, the AI factory. Interlude, 5 markets, 5 scenes, healthcare. A radiology department that once waited days for image reconstruction now finishes in hours. Genomics pipelines compress timelines from week to day. During global health crises, GPU clusters help simulate proteins and search candidate molecules faster than old pipelines allowed. Automotive. Autonomy stacks need perception on the edge and simulation at cloud scale. Training neural nets demands huge clusters. Validation requires synthetic worlds. Development teams build on a common platform rather than stitching bespoke tools from scratch. Finance. Fraud detection shifts from overnight batch jobs to near real-time inference. Risk teams run Monte Carlo simulations at scales that were previously theoretical. Time is money. Acceleration is an advantage you can deposit. Media and entertainment. Directors iterate in real time. Render farms run faster, but equally important, creative choices accelerate because feedback loops tighten. When you can see changes instantly, you try more ideas. Quality rises because iteration rises. Robotics and industry. Computer vision checks quality in factories, and digital twins model entire plants. Managers test changes virtually before touching steel. Breakages drop, safety climbs, and capital allocation gets smarter. AMD pushes ROCm as an open alternative. In raw throughput, competition is real, but ecosystems don't switch with benchmarks alone. Developers bet on predictability and support. A decade of CUDA gravity resists the pull. Intel pursues accelerators of its own. Roadmaps promise a comeback. Customers listen, then wait for software maturity, toolchain stability, and proven wins across varied workloads. Switching costs aren't measured only in dollars. They are measured in cognitive load. Cloud providers experiment with custom silicon. Owning the stack is tempting, but neutrality for customers and flexibility for frameworks argue for NVIDIA as the safe, fast path. Some workloads shift to custom chips. The larger wave stays with the dominant ecosystem. Startups chase niches: sparsity, wafer scale, analog, photonics. Innovation is healthy. Some ideas will graduate, but most customers cannot afford fragmentation across many tool chains. Standardization has its own gravity. The platform with the best combination of performance, software, and support tends to win. In each battle, the lesson rhymes. It's not just a chip race, it's an ecosystem race. And ecosystems are webs made of thousands of invisible threads binding docks, drivers, libraries, habits, and people. Performance leadership sustains premium pricing. Systems and networking deepen attachment and expand the bill of materials. Software reduces friction and amplifies value. Cloud distribution broadens reach. Developer programs seed tomorrow's demand today. Margins hold because performance leads. Cash flow funds the next architecture. The next architecture widens the gap. The gap attracts more developers. More developers build more software. More software creates more use cases. More use cases sell more systems. The loop compounds. Discipline learned in the crisis years shows up in supply strategy, long-term foundry commitments, and product focus. The company behaves like a platform, not a vendor. That difference shows up in valuation later, much later, when the market prices not only revenue, but resilience. The world wakes up to generative AI. Chatbots converse, models summarize, draft, reason. Images and video are created from text. Entire workflows shift from manual to model-assisted. Training these systems devours compute. Serving them at scale is a second mountain. Efficiency, memory bandwidth, and interconnects become front-page topics. NVIDIA's roadmap lands on time. New architectures for training and inference, new memory stacks to feed the beast, new systems that wire it all together. The narrative flips in public. It's no longer whether NVIDIA survives. It's whether anyone can close the hardware-software ecosystem gap while demand is exploding. Momentum is not a number. It is a feeling that pulls decisions toward the market leader. That feeling now works in NVIDIA's favor. Between 2023 and 2025, AI infrastructure becomes the most sought-after capital project in technology. Enterprises rewire budgets, hyperscalers build at unprecedented pace, startups race to train, governments invest to compete. NVIDIA benefits in three ways at once: from selling high-value accelerators, from shipping turnkey systems that compress time to model, and from a software stack that shortens the distance between ambition and results. Investors start valuing the company as a platform with durable economics rather than a cyclical component supplier. Crossing $4 trillion is not a single headline. It is the crest of a long wave, one that started when three engineers bet that parallelism would change the world, survived a near-death detour, and returned with a worldview that composes hardware, software, systems, and developers into one product: acceleration. Hardware cadence with purpose. Roadmap attacks real bottlenecks instead of just chasing theoretical flops. Compounding software. Each release stacks on the last. Libraries, drivers, and tools cut friction for the next project. Systems that simply work. Reference designs, DGX, HGX baselines, and partner ecosystems make deployment boring, and boring is beautiful in production. Developer gravity. Universities teach it, startups launch with it, enterprises hire for it. Talent supply becomes a moat of its own. Narrative clarity. A consistent message, repeated for years. Accelerated computing is the future. Strategy is saying no. Narrative is saying one thing until everyone can say it for you. Founders write culture, and culture writes code. Jensen Huang's story is a study in durable conviction. An immigrant kid who washed dishes before he managed engineers. A communicator who turns a leather jacket into a brand asset, a symbol of consistency and a reminder that style can carry story. A product leader obsessed with details, from architecture choices to customer use cases and developer pain points. His playbook reads simple, but it's hard to execute. Repeat the future until it sounds like common sense. Bet through storms, not just in sunshine. Obsess over the edges where hardware meets software and software meets developers. Make adoption easy with systems, reference designs, and opinionated defaults. Keep the company one architecture wide, many markets deep. Great stories include the hard parts. Supply constraints test patience. Partnerships and long-term capacity planning seek to turn scarcity into managed allocation. Geopolitics complicate distribution. Product variance and careful policy navigation keep markets open where possible. Open challengers and new frameworks threaten to reduce lock-in. The counter is relentless software progress and better tooling. Commoditization is the oldest risk in semiconductors. The antidote is to redefine the ceiling with each architecture, so the race keeps moving up the hill. Energy and sustainability pressures grow with AI scale. System-level efficiency, better utilization, and model-serving advances become part of the product, not afterthoughts. Risks never vanish. They are managed, mitigated, and priced into strategy. For founders, name the category you want to own. If you can teach the world to use your product, you become the default. Defaults are destiny. For product leaders, pick one core architecture and take it everywhere. Fragmentation is friction. Focus compounds. For developer platform owners, documentation is a growth channel. The team that answers forum posts today earns enterprise deals tomorrow. For operators, time to value beats raw spec sheets. Customers buy speed to results, not parts. For investors, watch for ecosystems, not just revenue. When the customers do unpaid marketing for a platform, valuation is catching up, not running ahead. Epilogue: the long arc of acceleration. In 2007, NVIDIA looked mortal. In 2025, it looks inevitable. The difference is not luck. It is a two-decade march toward a simple idea. When you make the future run faster, the future runs to you. NVIDIA didn't just ride an AI wave. It built the surfboard, taught the world to surf, and then sold the ocean by the hour. That is how a company goes from the brink of bankruptcy to the first to break $4 trillion, and why this story will be studied wherever people care about vision, execution, and the compounding power of belief. Fade out. The next architecture boots up, the cycle begins again, and the future accelerates once more. The world learned a quiet lesson. Fast chips are wasted by slow networks. Training modern models is a choreography across many accelerators. If links starve the cluster starves the model. NVIDIA's acquisition of high-performance networking built a second pillar next to compute. Interconnects became part of the product, not a line item. Software adapted to squeeze every bit from every link. The result: clusters that behave like one machine instead of many boxes. This matters beyond benchmarks. It turns sprawling data centers into coherent instruments. It makes scaling predictable, and it moves the conversation from how many chips to how fast can we move ideas through the system. Platforms want leverage at every layer. An attempted acquisition of a major CPU architecture crystallized a strategic truth. The future of computing will be negotiated, not owned. Even when a deal fails, the intent signals the arc. Closer coupling between CPU, GPU, networking, and software. The lesson for operators is practical. You don't need to own everything to shape outcomes, influence the standards, co-design the interfaces, publish the playbooks. When your ecosystem becomes the default, gravity does more work than control ever could. $4 trillion is not a finish line. It is a signal. It says that accelerated computing is no longer a side quest. It is the main story of the next decade. It says that software gravity can be engineered. It says that crises can sharpen strategy instead of scattering it. Most of all, it says this: the companies that compound learning, technically, culturally, and economically, create outcomes that look like luck from the outside and like calendars from the inside. NVIDIA's calendar was simple: seed the world, serve developers, ship the stack, and never stop raising the ceiling. That is how you travel from a near-death chapter to a valuation that rewrites business history. And that is why this story will be told again, in classrooms, boardrooms, and soon enough, on new stages where the next generation builds what comes after accelerated computing.